Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I just want to remind everyone we're in the end of year submission period. The initial deadline is July 31st, with then the amendment window starts, and that ends on August 28th. So everything should be wrapped up by then. Also going on right now for the high schoolers, the 9th through 12th graders, is the cohort, the 4-year cohort, and that doesn't have to be LEA approved, but you do want to be done with that because it will stop running the reports on, after August 28th as well. I wanted to remind everyone to take a look at the known issues. With a lot of new functionality, input validation rules, certification rules, a lot of new reports. With all that comes some defects, apparently, and so we've been writing a lot of new known issues. And I wanted you guys to, before you put tickets in, to check to make sure if it's on the known issues list or not. And I wanted to share a screen out right now for some that we actually just put in. Some of these do show up on the known issue, but some of them are so fresh they're not on the known issue. So I was going to share that out really quick with you and just kind of go over those very briefly.
How do you get to the known issue?
We'll show that right after I go through these. So these are some of the latest ones. I believe most of these are pretty high
Can
high
you make
severity.
that larger?
It's pretty big on my screen, but I can try. For people, is that better?
Good. Yeah.
Okay. So Angela and I are the ones that pretty much, we get the bugs sent up to us, and then we do all the testing and make sure it's a bug, and then we write it up. So Angela and I have been in kind of a competition, it seems, the last couple of weeks of who can write the most of these. But starting from the bottom of this list, the ones on top are the most recent. So starting from the bottom of this, I just wanted to just briefly go over these just in case you haven't heard of these. One of them is if you look at some of your reports, even though when you get to the point where you LEA approve, you might see that the reports are still showing not certified. Okay, that doesn't mean you're not certified. If you have LA approved certified status, you are certified even if the reports are saying not certified. It's a cosmetic defect, and I don't know that that will get fixed before the end of the submission period, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Then we have some errors on the Cert 137 and 139 that may be invalid for some students, and that has to do with the late triennial meetings and the late annual meetings. And then if you're trying to delete a spread record, either in online or in, I don't know if you can do it in a batch.
Or API.
API, yeah, you'll get this SPED 438. That is an issue, a high-level issue that we hope to have fixed real soon. And then another one is the 7.13, 7.14 student offense reports. If you are putting in a bunch of offenses, the only ones that are showing on those reports are ones that are offenses associated with weapons. So if you have other offenses, drug-related offenses or something like that, they won't show up on this report right yet. However, I do see that the developer working on this has already got a fix in place, so hopefully we'll get that fixed pretty quick as well. So it shows all the offenses and not just weapons-related offenses. Then this one here, the 16.1 report, if you go to the certification page for end of year 4 and you try to bring it up, you're going to get an access denied error, which is unfortunate. You can see this report if you go to the reports and then look at 16.1, it will come up for you. The bad thing about this is, though, since you can't see it on the certification page, that little red X won't turn to a green, so you would not be able to certify, even though you can look at the report under the reports section. However, hopefully we'll have that fixed pretty soon. We hope to have, obviously, all these fixed fairly soon, so that won't affect you guys getting completed. And then there's this one was just implemented yesterday in Calpads, and it's triggering invalidly in a lot of cases, and it has to do with a special education exit code for student without disabilities. And what we're finding is they're getting this error even though we do see active SPED records in there. So hopefully we'll have this fixed fairly quick as well. And then there's a lot of these SPED 441 errors. So in some cases, these are legitimate errors, and in some cases, it's triggering even though there are matches. So that one, these are kind of the tough one to troubleshoot for your end and our end, because there's a lot of different points to check. But just want to let you know that's an error. And then the posting is failing on the Cella files. So these, again, most of these are all high level and they're all being worked on, and hopefully we'll get those fixed soon. So I'm going to stop sharing, and we'll have Alex show us where the known issues document can be found.
So Gary, before we do that, I just wanted to note, I think everybody knows, but if not, we have a 2-week release cycle. And so yesterday was our Tuesday release. Some of those that he went over are too critical to wait that long though. And so like the Cella not posting, so we will try to patch those that are really critical prior to the next release.
Thanks, Angela.
I'm going to share my screen now. Right. So to get to the known issues, they are in the CDE website, but to get the latest and greatest, it's most recently updated in the Calpads screen all the way at the bottom. Current known issues will open up a new tab for you, and it'll list all of the.
I would have just shown this earlier when I checked. It didn't have all of them, but these are all the latest ones, so I didn't have to make a separate document. Oh well.
Yeah, Gary, Kyron and I are able to get that out daily around 1 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Between 1 and 3. So yeah,
okay.
So if it's in there before in the morning, we're able to get it out in the afternoon.
Yeah, so it's kept up pretty good. And so while we're showing that, I also wanted to share that we have all the report mapping guides done for all the reports for end of year. And I was going to have Alex show us how you get to the report mapping guides for end of year.
So it's in the Calpads user manual. So again, if you're in Calpads, you can get there from going under help, and then user manual is right here. And it's going to take you to this screen. You can go to the report mapping guides by clicking view details. And then from here, you can choose which submission you want to view the reports for. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The other thing that we wanted to point out was that from the Calpads user manual, you can come here to fresh off the press. And I really like this screen because it gives you all sorts of really cool detailed information. We have links here that might help you. We have new functionalities that are in Calpads, and the calendar is also here. So just a lot of little tips and tricks for EOY.
Perfect. Thanks, Alex. I didn't even know that was there. I don't know when that was added, but thanks. Okay. And just to talk about the report mapping guides, those are useful for those who may not have heard of those or didn't know about those. Those are very useful. If you're looking at the reports and you're trying to figure out, I'm looking at this report, where is these numbers are off, where's this data coming from? So the mapping guides will tell you what fields in the files being submitted are being populated to get those numbers in those columns on the reports. So you'll see these call out numbers that go with each column. So you see the column that you want, and you can go down, scroll down to the number of the column, and that will tell you where that information or data is coming from. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'll start reading through the questions. Okay, looks like the first question is from Danielle. We have an NPS discipline record that needs to be reported for August 11th during summer prior to beginning of our calendar start date, which was 8/27. How should we report this record? We are getting an enrollment error. So that discipline record.
You shouldn't get a GER error.
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying that is because the rules with respect to submitting discipline the student doesn't actually have to be enrolled on that specific date of the occurrence. It's actually within the academic year. So if you are getting a GER 5 error, which is, you don't have the rights to submit this discipline record, it's either a defect or you're getting a different error. So we probably need to know the specific error.
And if I could add, this is Nate, that when you do enroll a student like that in that scenario, there's a warning. So maybe you're referring to the warning, which doesn't prevent the posting, but it may say student not enrolled on the day.
Thanks, Nate. Okay, next question is from Cindy. A question from my SPED department. Currently, we are providing interim placements for early start regional students who have turned 3 but are not being assessed due to the closures. Per CDE guidance, they're being placed in our SPED preschool until school opens again. We need to obtain SSIDs as they are in SACE and will have SPED SSRV records uploaded. Once schools open, they will be assessed. If they are found ineligible, what exit code should be used in Calpads when they don't qualify? And do we use the non-qualifying 2020-2021 school year date as the exit date when the placement was in 2010 through 2019?
Wow, that's a lot of questions.
That's a lot of questions.
Yeah, so for students that are found ineligible, with respect to the exit code, I'm assuming you mean the enrollment exit code. So which exit code should be used on the enrollment? And it would depend on the enrollment status, right? So if, and I believe that if this student is in an infant or a toddler, which I believe they still are, you would be forced to use E170 because their enrollment status is 50. Okay. I believe we have and Angela, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're proposing a change request to actually allow the use of the N470, but it's not in place yet. Would that be?
I thought that the answer was no, that they were not going to move forward with that N470 change.
Randy won, huh? Okay. So if their enrollment status 50, you would use the E470. So it's not necessarily like a notion.
170.
I'm sorry.
E170.
E170. Sorry. Okay, and then the second part of your question. And do we use the non-qualifying 2021 school year date as the exit date when the placement was made? So the problem with doing that is essentially if you use the date that they did not qualify as the student exit, then it sort of implies that the student was enrolled that entire time. So in those cases, when they were determined to be ineligible, and I know Joe some of the SPED office is actually on this call, so I know.
Oh, that came up today, Brandy, just real briefly. I think in that scenario right now, you get the Cert 160 error. But what Meredith shared today was that that is a change request that's going to be in the next release, that if they do not qualify, that error won't trigger on them.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so we're changing that. But in terms of the date that they use, the enrollment is there to sort of determine the district's responsibility. And so the district has a responsibility to evaluate the students. And normally what we wanted you to do was we actually wanted you to no-show them, because if they didn't qualify, they're not going to receive services at all. The enrollment generally would be no-showed, which essentially nullifies it. In this case, because you have to use E170, you should reflect at least a one-day enrollment for those students. Does that make sense? So if you use the exit date as the date that they did not qualify, you're going to see this big, long open enrollment, which may have unintended consequences.
So Brandy, right now I'm sharing that Flash 161. Is there a different documentation that I should be sharing?
Oh, for exiting.
For exiting,
Golly, that was September. Yeah, I think it's in there. I mean, I think the guidance is in there, although I think this probably erroneously says they can exit them within N470.
Yeah.
And they actually couldn't do it. But
Right.
yeah, 161 is the best place for
All righty. Next question is from Sherry. On the 7.16 report, drilling in to see the students and they do not show. Example, one high school lists a number of students, but when clicking on the high school link, only one student shows up. So the 7.16 is your incident removals for student with disabilities count. So if it's showing there's a number, but when you click on it, you're only getting one, I'd say send in a ticket because we'll probably want to take a look at that and troubleshoot it and verify what's going on. From Cedric, are we supposed to report CTE concentrators? Also, how likely is it that Calpads will calculate our CTE completers in the future?
Wow, that's a very intuitive question. Have you been eavesdropping on meetings, Cedric? Okay, so the answer is right now there is a requirement in Calpads, or there is the ability to report concentrators. Let me be completely transparent when I tell you that we will, for Perkins purposes and for purposes of the California School Dashboard, we will not be evaluating or looking at counts of concentrators. The California State CTE plan was modified so that at the federal level, for Perkins purposes, concentrators essentially equal completers. Okay, so the only concentrators that we're reporting to the feds for purposes of Perkins are completers. And as you know, we only report completers to the dashboard. So having said that, you know, you can continue to report them because they are still in the reports, but they will not be used for either Perkins reporting or the dashboard. And the likelihood that we will calculate CTE completers based on data in the course completion file, that is currently being discussed, right? They're trying to determine whether or not we can figure it out based on information that's being submitted in the course completion file. So yeah, we're having those discussions. It hasn't been decided yet though.
Okay. Next question from Fabiola. Can you tell us where to find documentation with explanations on how to interpret, analyze the aggregate reports? Can you share the link? I have seen it before, but cannot find it in the data guide or support documentation. So Fabiola, I think, are you talking about the report mapping guides?
It could be from training slides. And I know the end of year advance, we had hidden slides, but it had some like checklist things to look for. So I don't know, Fabiola, maybe take a look at the hidden slides and the EOI advance.
Probably both, right? The mapping guide. Start with the mapping guide, and then make sure you understand, you know, what content is being displayed, and then drill down on the training material.
Yep.
So to answer Fabiola's question, the mapping guide is in the Calpads user manual. That's the resource document.
Yeah, so under help on the left-hand nav, I like to use the search, but there's different ways to navigate that document.
Okay. So next question is from Chrissy. Is there an update on the Sync 516? I believe it was supposed to be in the fix yesterday.
That one's not scheduled until the June 16th release.
So 2 weeks from now. From Rosario, how can I get a certified special ed count?
For which time of the year? I would say 16.1. Wouldn't you, Brandy?
Right, 16.1.
But remember, right now, you have to go to reports, snapshot reports, 16.1, because in certification screen, that will give you an access denied error. But we'll have that fixed soon.
But I mean, you got to wait till your LEA approves it and your SELPA approves it for it to be certified.
Right.
From Niraj, I am unable to find CTE code for industrial technology education.
Pathway?
Yeah, so industrial technology education actually is a really archaic term, and it's actually a credential that they actually still issue, but there are several CTE pathways that have components of industrial technology education. So what you need to do is really take a look at the content of the course and the local course description to determine which CTE pathway it maps to, right? So, is it building trades? Is it woodworking? And you need to determine which pathway, because each one of those pathways has standards. Industrial technology education as a whole is probably more of an industry level, and it might be like an introductory. So Alex, in the valid code combinations document, we actually have a list of all the industry sectors. So if you go to CTE pathway industry sector, there we go. Okay, and then we want to filter on only the ones that are effective. Okay, so you'll see here all of our existing pathways, but most importantly, you'll see all of the industry sectors. So building and construction trades, and let's see, scroll down a little bit. Most of your industrial technology education.
MIS.
Let's see, MIS. There isn't any MIS.
There it is.
Oh.
There's multiple industry sectors.
Yeah, no, that's not it. No. Okay. So again, you want to look through the industry sectors and determine which of those industry sectors that particular course belongs in. And then you have to look within the pathways, and then depending on the particular pathway, because your course should be designed, again, either to be a very general introductory course for an industry sector, and most of the industry sectors have specific industry sector level codes, or if it's a specific if it's a specific pathway within that industry sector, then you would select one of the course codes within that industry sector. So what I would do is if you want more detailed explanation, just submit a ticket and I can help you.
Okay, from Monica, question regarding Title I targeted. Here's a scenario: 292 eligible free and reduced lunch students, which also makes them eligible for Title I. Only 202 are actually receiving free and reduced lunch. The other 90 opted not to receive the lunches. Are those 90 eligible for Title I targeted?
So, Monica, it's about what's in your Title I plan, and I think, Alex, this is one of the questions that you were asking about, right?
Right.
Okay. So we're getting ready to write a FAQ on this, but essentially, LEAs that are running Title I targeted schools in their Title I plans have to identify the student populations that will be served with that Title I targeted money. So first of all, it's a local determination on which students are going to be served. So in your school, if you've determined that you're going to serve free and reduced price meal eligible students, it has nothing to do with whether or not they actually participate in free and reduced price meals, as long as they are eligible, right? So they could be targeted students, but again, it depends on your local Title I plan.
Okay, from Kay, when will the report 7.14 display counts other than 0? I kind of covered that when I was going over the known issues. The 7.13 and 7.14 right now are only showing counts if you have weapons offenses, weapons-related offenses. If you don't, then you'll get this all 0. So that's being worked on and should be updated or fixed pretty soon.
I have an update on that one, Gary. So the developer fixed it, so it's in the hands of a tester now, and so that's good. If we do end up in a patch situation, it could potentially come before the 16th.
Okay. From Carla, in Calpads Flash 178, I understood that due to COVID-19, we can report a student as a CTE completer if they receive a mark of past credit during semester 2, as long as the students completed the intro course and concentrator course. But I always feel so unsure of a grade of D for one of the semesters. If a student earns a D in a concentrator or completer course, can they be considered a concentrator or completer?
So I think the issue is, you said if they earn a D in the concentrator or completer course. Okay, so if your question is whether or not they can be identified as a completer if they have a D in one of the prerequisite courses, in my experience, the CTE office has always said yes, as long as they pass the capstone course with a C- or better. Okay, so in this case, they got a D in the concentrator course, they were enrolled in the capstone course, and you're not giving out a grade, you're just giving credit, no credit, or pass, fail. Based on what I understand from the CTE office, as long as they received a passing mark and completed the prerequisite courses, then they can be marked as a completer. Now, if they earned a D in the capstone, then the answer is no.
No. Okay, Larnie appreciates the known issues documents. From Tracy, course code questions. Is course code 9320 only for grades K through 6 science departmentalized? Asking because 9100 and 9240 are also departmentalized, but used for grades K8 and not K6.
Yeah.
And can course code 9311 PE departmentalized 6 through 8 be marked middle school core?
Okay, so it is very purposeful that the science K6, the science departmentalized is only K6. Because in 7th and 8th grade, you actually structure the content so that it's more departmentalized and it's subject area specific. So in 7th and 8th grade, they're doing like life science usually and physical science, let's say. So that departmentalized, so where you're covering all of the disciplines, sort of, is for a science teacher who's only teaching science, covering the K6 standards. But again, once you move into grades 7 and 8, the content becomes more specific, and therefore you have to pick a specific science content area for teachers who are teaching standards in grades 7 and 8. With respect to 9311, PE departmentalized, 6 through 8, can that be a part of a middle school core? Okay, so just to be clear, what middle school core setting means, it means that that course is being taught by a teacher who is essentially coring subjects in grades 5 through 8. And that means a teacher who is teaching one or more or two or more content areas to the same group of kids in the same day. We do have, we finally got it up, I think, one day before certification. At the Fall 2 FAQs has a really comprehensive description of what a middle school core is. So I just want to make sure that you're understanding what middle school core setting means. But if the teacher, in fact, is teaching PE and, let's say, science to the same group of kids in the same day, that could be considered part of a middle school core. I just don't want you to think that middle school core means, is this a core course or not? That's not what it means. It means
grouping.
Right. It means that, there we go. There we go. And I think that's on our FAQ page now.
Oh, it is.
But the fact that PE isn't, I don't know, it's not like your typical subject areas like math or science. It can be bundled with like any other topic.
So again, middle school course settings can include any subject, any subjects, as long as that teacher, they're teaching them in what looks like a departmentalized fashion, but they can actually teach that with a multiple subject credential, because they're teaching English, and in the examples that I use here, they're teaching English and history, social science to the same group of kids within the day.
Okay, next question is from Cheryl. I'm receiving an error for Title I targeted. However, we have waivers for the school that is getting this error.
What does a waiver mean?
Mm-hmm.
I do not know. Yeah, you'd probably have to, I'm assuming the error you're getting is because you haven't submitted any program records for a school that's Title I, so you might want to just submit a ticket.
Okay, from Deb, we noticed many of the Cert 140s, 143s, and 145s have fallen off of our errors, but we still have plenty. Are these three completely bug-free, indicating that we now have legitimate errors? Angela, are these all resolved?
I think all three had some fixes go in, and so you can start, Deb, with the assumption that they're working correctly. And they're accurate. I just pulled up yours, and I'm looking at your Cert 140, and the first one is in fact legit. Sometimes with the Cert errors, they're like onions, right? We fix one part, and then, you know, especially with special ed, there's so many variations of data. So, you know, we'll fix one thing and we'll uncover another. So for now, because the release went in yesterday morning, and we haven't had any other reports on those three, assume that they're working unless you find that they're not.
Okay. From Y.A. Martinez, we are having issues regarding our JCCS enrollments having the correct SPED indicator flags in our 8.1 report. We have multiple enrollments for some students, but their enrollments have different SPED indicators for the same student. Some enrollments are yes and some are no for the same student.
Oh. What is that?
I'm not sure.
I thought it was you, Brandy.
Oh, that's not me.
It is 8.1, that has a lot of different filters on it, right?
I think this is Yolanda, and she had sent this question into me, but it was framed a little bit differently. So she was interested in knowing the differences between 16.1 and whether or not a student is SPED in 8.1. And my understanding, and it also depends, do we have an 8.1 for
EOI 4 and EOI 3.
Right, but is it specific to students with disabilities? Or is it
I thought
just
there was?
Because all right, so can we look at
Maybe not. I thought there was the 8.1 EOI 4.
list. Yeah, no. Okay. So the student profile, the 8.1 that you're seeing in end of year 3, that from what I understand is that 16.1 is going to reflect students who have been identified by your LEA, your specific LEA, as SPED, which means that you have a SPED record in the system that identifies that the student was sped in your district anytime between July 1 and June 30th of the academic year. Okay, so however, 8.1 is a reflection of whether or not the student was on an active SPED plan between July 1 and June 30th, regardless of which LEA has the record for them in there. And so you guys are seeing differences between these two things because the logic for those indicators is different, right? And then she was referencing the fact that the report mapping guides were referencing program 144. So I don't know whether or not they were looking at a different
I think for everything prior to 2019-20, they are using the 144, but going forward in 2019-20, we are referring to the SPED, so it has dual logic in there. I think the 8.1 EOI4 is a future report. We were trying to figure out something, but
this question looks a little bit different. It says we have multiple enrollments for some students, but their enrollments have different SPED indicators. So
are they like short term? And
you know what I would do, Yolanda, send in a ticket with some SSIDs so I can take a look at what you're talking about. We just want to make sure that the logic is working correctly, but ideally what I think that 8.1 should reflect is whether or not the student's been on an active SPED plan anytime during the academic year.
And Brandy, be aware too, and Yolanda, and everybody, 8.1, there's different versions. There's an 8.1 that comes out of fall 1, and it's based on who we're looking at for fall 1. And then there's the 8.1 that you get out of end of year 3, and it always has end of year 3 at the end of it. And so that's looking at all of the students throughout the year, whereas the fall 1, 8.1 was point in time as a census day. So there is a difference on 8.1 reports, which one you choose.
Right.
Okay, next question is from Stephanie. It is my understanding the duration days for expulsions should be the amount of days the student takes to enroll in our alt ed school, another school, or the end of year. Didn't read that correct. Enroll in our alt school, another school, or the end of year. My question is, what happens when the expulsion is for 2 semesters? 1 semester in this year and 1 semester in next year. If the student does not enroll in our art school until halfway through the 2nd semester, which would be in the next school year, would we still use the end of this year as the duration days?
That would be my recommendation. Here's the reason why. I mean, you could go ahead and stretch it out into the following semester, which would go into the next academic year, because you don't report any sort of absence data for students who are expelled, right? They're just not there. But the guidance that we have here basically says until they enroll elsewhere or to the end of the academic year. So in this case, just use to the end of the academic year.
Because once they get greater than 10 days, it doesn't matter.
Exactly, yeah.
They get put into a bucket of 10 days or greater.
Okay, next question from Wendy. When an amendment is submitted to Calpads, does this amendment change the original meeting in the ODS, or does the amendment stand alone and the meeting remains unchanged from the original submission? I'm looking at the SPED 438 and the parental involvement facilitation code has been changed to yes. You have to change back to no for the transaction to be accepted.
Great question.
Yeah, this is one that we've been struggling with for some time, folks.
Yeah. So if in fact an amendment meeting has been held that actually changed the parental involvement facilitation code, then that meeting is a separate meeting, right? It is a standalone, so it doesn't change and shouldn't change the existing record in the ODS because you're making an amendment to an existing IEP. Okay, so we want to leave that record intact. Okay, but the problem is some of you are trying to change this parental involvement facilitation code if it was erroneously left out of the original IEP record that was sent up, right? You're changing it. And the scenario that Martha pointed out was that some LEAs, they have the initial IEP meeting, and then they discuss all the components of the IEP, but the parent decides not to sign on that day, right? So you've created the transaction in your special education data system because the meeting has been held, except it's not necessarily finalized because that parent hasn't really signed. And so at the point where that transaction is created and you've set it up to Calpads, you don't really know the answer to this question, the parental involvement facilitation code. So our recommendation is that you shouldn't be even sending up the record until the parent is signed, until you can actually adequately answer that question. And therefore, you wouldn't get this error because it's not really an amendment, right? If you're actually changing it, meaning the parent now has decided that they haven't been involved enough and the district hasn't provided enough parental involvement, and they want to change that, then amendment meeting has to be held, and that would be a standalone record. I hope that makes sense. Did that?
It made sense to me, Brandy.
Okay.
So when you look at this error description, and even column E where it says fields validated, there's the expectation that there's certain fields that must, sorry, not must, cannot be changed during an amendment, that it has to be on a regular IEP. And so I think the confusion is some people are trying to correct something, but the system is seeing it, well, you're trying to make an amendment with these field changes and it's not allowed. And that's why the 438 is triggering. And we're going to try to document this and communicate it out to the vendors as well as to everybody so that you have a better understanding of what's going on with the 438. And so I think when you got to ask yourself about this particular record, what were you guys trying to accomplish? Did you truly think that you could do an amendment and, SPED office saying, no, you're not supposed to when these fields are involved? Or was it a mistake and you just needed to correct the data?
Okay, next question is from Angela Perkins. I understand there's a known issue with the SCNR 0519 triggering invalidly, but I could not locate this error code at all on the Calpads error list. Is this a new error code? Will the error list be updated in the near future? Yeah, it was just implemented yesterday, and when we first got the tickets, we couldn't find it either. So we had to do a little digging, but it will be updated. The error list will be updated. It is written down somewhere.
Hopefully very soon.
Very soon.
It may not be on the CD website very soon, but it will certainly be in the error list that's inside of Calpads very soon.
From Kay Peterson, for students in a preschool with a grade level of PS, they are usually enrolled with an enrollment status of 10 primary enrollment. When they are determined to be ineligible for SPED, then they are exited with the N470 no-show exit code.
Right, but just to be clear, these are kids that are transitioning from the infant program over to, because I'm pretty sure she's trying to give guidance on the prior question.
Yeah.
If they're transitioning from the infant program from Part C to Part B, and even though they are now preschool age, their IEP still reflects an IFSP. And so for students on individualized family service plans, they have to use enrollment status 50, right, for infants and toddlers. So, but you're right, Kay. If the student is in preschool and has a grade level of PS, you could use primary enrollment and N470.
Okay, from Larnie, in general, we are to have a baseline SPED and SSRV records for all of our students with disabilities from 18-19, regardless of whether they have a 19-20 annual year enrollment. For example, a student who is not enrolled at all for 19-20 because he moved to a private school, a SPED and SSRV record is still expected under our LEA with an exit reason. And that's a question. Same thing for those who graduated at the end of 2019. A SPED and SSRV record is still expected, but with the exit reason that he graduated. Is this assumption correct?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say the private school, just because they move to a private school, you may still be responsible for that student. So let's say they're currently in a private school, but if they're still yours, then we need that original info.
Right, but just to be clear, when you send up a SPED and SSRV record, just remember, for students that move to private schools or for students who graduated, those are school exit reasons. And therefore, we had conversations with your special education vendors. We don't need new records for you to tell us that they transferred to a private school or they graduated high school. That's information that we receive in the enrollment records. So I guess my point is, if there's a baseline of records already in the system for these students saying that they are ineligible or that they're still eligible, we would know that they're ineligible for SPED services based on the fact that they graduated with a high school diploma in their enrollment record. If they transfer to a private school, it doesn't mean they're not still technically eligible if they were to re-enroll in a public school, right? So you don't need to send up SPED records indicating special education program exit reasons because we know it from the enrollment records.
Okay, next question is from Rayanne. I know that just DINCs, DINCs,
yeah,
for the 1920 school year are suspended, but we had a student that was on our DINC report for the annual IEP. The student never belonged to us in SACE. I checked our SIS, and the student was in fact enrolled with our district for a few months. We checked the registration form that parent completed, and the parent did not mark that student was on an IEP. How would this DINC be resolved?
So I'm assuming the DINC report that you're the DINC report that you're referring to, is it one of the monitoring reports in Calpads, or are you talking about a different report? Ryan?
So it's almost like the kid came to them, but they were unaware that the student was on an IEP because the student was at a different district prior to coming to them.
Right. And yeah, that's a problem. They enrolled in your district and you did not send up a SPED record. I believe on the monitoring reports, you're going to, although the monitoring reports, I thought, Martha and Angela, were reflecting where the student is currently enrolled.
Off the top of my head, I don't know, Brandy.
Yeah, that was my...
But I thought also in the submissions, when you have a student and you're unaware if they're SPED or not, we are now, like in end of year 4, we're triggering an error saying you have a student enrolled, but there's no SPED record for this student because we looked at their history.
Right, right.
And so we're trying to give you visibility of students that may be enrolled and you're unaware of their
Oh, okay.
status.
Yeah, she's referring to something else. So it was sent to my self-administrator in an email. So this might be something that Shiloh's office is doing. So Aman, I know that you're on the call. Did your office send out, did you guys actually send out a DINC report to CELPAs? Aman, are you on the call?
I unmuted you, Aman, so you should be able to talk.
Okay. Oh, she says she has no audio. Okay. Did your guys' office send out DINC reports based on fall 1 data? Do you know? Okay.
Sure.
So Rayanne, do me a favor, just submit a ticket because I'm not really sure which report you're looking at. Okay, so yeah, Judy from Fresno is saying they got the list of dinks as well. So I just want to make sure that if you got the list of dinks, it was probably sent out by the special education office. And that's not something that we have in Calpads. That was a separate process that would use, and so they would probably have to address that question.
Okay, from Holly, what are the implications for reporting pass, no pass for core courses rather than grades on the completion files, student course completion files, specifically for grades 7 and 8? Essentially, where does the SCSC data get reported to after it is reported in Calpads?
Honestly, it really only matters for grades 9 through 12. Grades 7 and 8, we actually collect course completion data if you offer departmentalized courses, because we do know that some schools do offer CTE courses, and that's one of the primary reasons we make it optional for 7 and 8, is to get an idea of which schools are offering and which students are completing career technical education courses. It does not count for purposes of Perkins, but it's just to kind of inform the CTE program. But it does matter for grades 9 through 12. The implications for reporting pass or no pass, the department did put out guidance about sort of the do no harm in terms of grading and credits for, so she's going to the frequently asked questions and the COVID-19 page, right? And so there is a specific set of FAQs about grading and attendance for COVID-19. And 7 and 8, there really isn't a lot of implications for reporting pass, no pass. And there aren't very many implications for 9 through 12 either. It's just about how you identify within your own internal student information system whether or not a student has met UCCSU requirements. That changes based on the COVID-19 guidance.
Okay, next question is from Carla Felix. I think I totally missed that. I was planning to report CTE concentrators this year in the SCTE extract. Is it okay to still report them? Yes, it is.
Yep, it is.
Rosario, I'm sorry, that's you put for fall 1. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's the 8. Is that the, no.
8.1.
Oh, okay.
So that's not the one to look at.
Mm-hmm. Was
She was
that
the one
Yolanda
asking.
or
Oh, yeah, not for end of year.
For special ed, her special ed students.
was that
From Laura, just to confirm, if a student is turning 3 in mid-June but will not be starting services until August, should they be made eligible now or when the services actually start?
So I believe that the special education office put out guidance that the initial start date should be the date of the meeting. Oh, you know what? I take that back. I did clarify with Shiloh and her team that in the cases of students that actually are not starting the program until their 3rd birthday, meaning their initial, they haven't been participating in Part C, they're just being initially evaluated. So you hold the meeting, and then their initial start date is actually the date of their 3rd birthday. I did clarify that last week or the week before.
Okay. From Janelle, have the Cert 140, 143, and 145 error validations been fixed on yesterday's update? I think we had this question a little bit earlier, and Angela had said there was some fixes going in for those, and we haven't seen any new errors since yesterday on these, so they could be legitimate errors.
Until you tell us otherwise.
Otherwise.
Give us some SSIDs that you don't think should have it.
Rosario says, me again, 16.1 gives me a district count. I need a school level count for special ed students.
That's the rub.
That is the rub. You don't get that from 16.1.
You know what you could do is join it with your any student that you have on 16.1, join it with their enrollment to find out what school they're enrolled in.
Yeah.
But the SPED file specifically does not collect the school of attendance. It's at the LEA level.
Right.
That's why 16.1 is not going to give you a school level count.
From Mary Masters, is there a known issue with the 7.13 report? Yes, there is. I talked about those at the beginning of the meeting. We do have some, we think we have some fixes for those, so hopefully we'll get that fixed, but it is only showing weapons offenses and not all of them. From Ambar, I'm submitting SPED files and getting error SPED 438 education plan amendment date mismatch. How would I fix this error? I'm submitting through Welligent just in case this info is needed.
So Amber, where are you? We answered this question already on SPED 438. And Gary, you only have three minutes left.
Okay.
So I don't know if we want to rehash SPED 438 again.
Okay.
Wait for a communication to come out. Take no action and wait for a communication, and we're going to clear up and hopefully help everybody better understand how to resolve the 438s.
From Lori at San Diego, is there a non-advanced webinar recording for the 2019-20 Targeted Awards CETE reporting, both EOY 1 and programs?
So EOY 1 training starts next week, right, Nate?
That is correct. Yes.
We don't have it posted just yet, or a recording. It usually happens after we do a couple of them. So soon we will have a recording.
But if it's about CTE, Martha, there's a SCTE data population that they can. That's already
on the YouTube channel.
And on Bridge.
Well, they may not be a Bridge person. That's probably why they're asking about a recording. I don't know.
And then we have a posting from Sly from CSIS, middle school core setting. There's a posting there for you for that FAQ. Rosario says 1.1 still has students with disabilities. Are those counts accurate?
It's a different count because 1.1 is about KN through 12, and you have students with disabilities beyond that grade level.
Well, and not only that, it's fall.
Yeah, point in time.
They're counts from census day, so they're going to be different.
Get you in the ballpark, but not exact. If you're looking at if you're wanting to find your whole population.
Okay, Mary Messer says she did hear the answer to the 7.13, but wants to know what fix available means when she's looking at known issues. Do we have anything to do anything to implement it?
Wouldn't it be nice if we get $1 for every fix? Sorry.
So fix available, yeah. Fix available means the developers have fixed the problem on our end when it gets implemented, whether through a patch or when we do our bi-weekly updates. I guess it's on a case-by-case basis. It's good though that when you see fix available, that means the problem is going to be fixed soon.
And if you have a ticket in and it's linked to the problem, then you will be notified directly that the fix is in, so you don't have to guess.
Yes.
And I was a little bit late sending out the update from the release because I was waiting for everybody to get new revisions. So typically I would do it, if you had a ticket in and we fixed it on a Tuesday morning, usually by early afternoon, I'd be able to update you guys. But because there were so many cert errors, we had to wait for everybody to get new revisions. So it went out today.
Angela Perkins is thanking us for these Q&A calls. So we still have quite a few tickets. We're 1 minute after the hour. Martha, should we keep going through a couple more, or?
Don't do any more after those 11. How's that? Because this question came in at 3:45.
Okay.
You're not going anywhere, are you, Gary?
I'm here for another hour or so.
Those that need to drop off, you can drop off. Brandy, are you good?
Yeah.
Okay, so from Ethan, I know this isn't really your department and it's charter specific, but do you have any insight into days of operation that we're supposed to report on the PADC software for apportionment at the P annual? I have no idea what any of that means. Seems like your office is...
Apportionment data collection. Yeah, apportionment data collection, sorry.
Okay.
So I would reference the COVID-19 resources page, but the general guidance that we were understanding is that you should only report your for apportionment purposes through February 29th. So the last full school month prior to or up to February 29th. So I hope that answers your questions. But, otherwise, what I would suggest is that you contact the principal apportionment unit directly. But up until the last full school month, LEAs would be reimbursed up until 2/29.
Okay, from Holly, the SPED 0438. Brandy, I thought I heard you say not to send the transactions up if there is no signature yet to try avoid getting this error. If that's correct, how does the SACE administrator know what transactions not to go in the report? There's hundreds of transactions.
Good
Amen.
point.
Yeah. So this is something that we're going to have to talk to the vendors about, because like I said, I know that you guys want to get the meeting information submitted, and based on the fact that there's now a meeting and that's been held, your systems are generating these transactions. However, in SACE specifically, there is a way that you affirm that transaction, and only affirmed transactions get sent up to Calpads. So I would argue that you should not affirm that particular IEP until you've got that parent signature, and that's how they know what to send up, right? Because only affirmed IEPs get sent up.
So it may be changes in your local practices.
Right.
Good question, though.
Okay, looks like a lot of these are just follow-up. Okay, going to Audrey. I'm sorry if someone has already asked this. On the 16.3 report, we have duplicate records listed for students who switch schools mid-year after an IEP. Isn't this report supposed to be a snapshot of the data at the time of certification? We can't use the report to check against our other reports if students are purring on it more than once.
So it's not, remember, it's a cumulative report, but I understand what you're saying. It would be sort of confusing if a student appeared on that report more than once if they moved to multiple schools within your district.
What's the goal of 16.3?
It's just the student list.
Student list of special ed.
How's that different than one? There's got to be a difference in them.
16.1?
Count. This is a count, right?
That's the aggregate.
Oh, by
count.
disability, and the other one is just everything else. Okay.
So this one is unduplicated, right, for the district, except when you get down to 16.3, it might be counting, or you might see more than one record if a student had more than one enrollment within the district.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's something that we need to look at in the report logic.
Or add a filter so that you get an unduplicated count, perhaps.
Yeah.
Should we ask Audrey to send in a ticket so we can get it logged as something for us to discuss? Audrey, can you do that? Okay, Gary.
All righty. So from Laura, so for the preschool, if a student turns 3 on February 7th and the meeting is held on February 3rd, then the IEP dated for the 7th. Then the IEP is dated for the 7th. As an initial part B, we have an error on a case like this, and I think that is why.
Okay. So our preschool student turned 3 on February 7th. Meetings held on February 3rd. Then the IEP is dated for the 7th.
That's when they turn 3 on the 7th.
Right. So when you say the IEP is dated for the 7th, so you're using terminology that doesn't really correlate directly to Calpads Field. So the meeting is held on February 3rd. So the meeting date would be February 3rd. There's also a field in there that says the initial start date, initial special education program entry date is what it's called. So the initial program entry date would actually be the 7th, right? Because it's an initial Part B. And that, again, is assuming that they weren't in Part C. This is only for students that are being initially evaluated for Part B and were not in Part C. I mean, in that case, Laura, if you're actually using the initial special education entry date as February 7th, that should not be generating an error for you.
So we need to know what the error number is, Laura. So you may have to send in a ticket if this didn't answer your question.
And then a question right underneath that from Val. Initial start date should be the student's 3rd birthday. What are you using to show that? The meeting date, the SPED entry date, the service start date?
Right. So the meeting date should be what it is. Like if you met on February 3rd, it should be February 3rd. However, this particular student doesn't actually enter the special education program until their 3rd birthday. So the initial special education program entry date should be their 3rd birthday.
From Lori, Marshall, what is the search term for the SCTE webinar recording on YouTube?
So what I will say is, once I am approved to go ahead and make it public, it will be, you can use the word career, or you can use just any one of those.
SCTE?
It's not SCTE, it's spelled out, career students.
Career Tech Ed?
Yeah, Career Tech Ed. Either one of those would bring it up. But I have it right now. It's in unpublished.
It's not public.
Yeah, we usually wait until the EOI 1 starts. But as soon as I get the okay from Martha, I will go ahead and put it public. Okay.
Thanks, Marshall. Okay, so here's the last question. From Rebecca, if a preschooler is enrolled in a private preschool in our district but resides in another district and is receiving clinic-based speech at one of our sites, who would be the district of accountability? And we have a document that has all kinds of scenarios somewhere.
And /161.
/161, yeah,
and then right here.
Reporting data for students with disabilities, and this gives you a bunch of different scenarios, and just follow the column or the columns and rows, and
it's actually at the very bottom. There's a definition for definition for district of special education accountability at the very bottom of the document too. So how do you determine which is the district of special education accountability? And I believe we have a scenario for students that are attending private schools. It's one of the last. Actually, no. Scroll back down to DSCA definition. There we go. So let's see. Okay, so it's 2F. The student attends a private school that is not geographically located in the boundaries of the school district where the student lives and is on an ISP. In this case, the DSCA is the county district code of the district where the private school is located. That is you. That's your district, Rebecca.
Perfect answer. Okay, and that brings us to the end of the Q&A today. I'd like to thank Brandy and Martha and Angela and Alex and Marshall and Nate and Kyron and Sly and everyone that helped us out today. And we will be back again next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Stay safe.
Thanks, Gary.